Good evening. Welcome to our presentation on avoiding a Medicare payment penalty and how to participate in the new quality payment program. I'm Nadine Caputo, Quality Director for the Patient Safety Organization, and we're pleased to collaborate with the SVS in offering this session to SVS and VQI members. I want to introduce Jill Rathbun. She is a consultant and leading expert on quality and physician payment issues. Jill is a master at making sense out of the most complex government regulations, and so we're very happy to have her guide us through this process. And along with Jill, we have two other experts, members of the SVS Quality and Performance Measures Committee, Dr. Taylor Smith from Ochsner Medical Center in New Orleans, and Dr. Patrick Ryan from the Nashville Vascular and Vein Institute. You have been placed into listen-only mode. At any time, you can type in your questions in the chat box in the lower right-hand portion of the screen, and all your questions and responses will be documented in the transcripts. An audio copy of the webinar series with the slides will be posted on the VQI website within a week. So with that introduction, I'm going to turn it over to Jill right now.
Great. Thank you, Nadine. And I am just going to show our agenda slide quickly, and then I am going to turn it over to our good members of the SVS QPMC committee. But today we're going to talk a little bit, just briefly, to set the stage about what is the quality payment program. But more importantly, we're going to talk about what you need to do in 2017 to be successful to avoid the penalty. We're going to go through step by step to check your participation status, to understand this 1 year only go at your own pace option. Then we're going to explicitly talk about how to report quality measures under the QPP program, which is what people call the quality payment program. So if you hear us saying QPP, that's what we mean. So there's multiple ways to report. We're going to go through each of those. You're also going to need to think about reporting a new element called clinical improvement activities, and we're going to talk about how to do that. And then we're just going to briefly touch on electronic healthcare record information, now called advancing care information, and then hopefully we'll have a little bit of time to take some questions and answers on this webinar. And as Nadine said, we'll get every question answered in writing if we don't get it done verbally this evening. So let's talk about the QPP. Okay, take it away. Is it Patrick? Patrick, are you ready?
I'm here. Hey, this is Patrick Ryan. Thank you, Jill. I had my phone on mute. In 2015, Republican Congress passed and President Obama signed the Medicare Access and Chip Reauthorization Act, or MACRA. Slide. One of the drivers for passing MACRA was the repeal of the sustainable growth rate that many of you will recall had us at risk for losing more than 20% of our reimbursement from Medicare on a January 15th, I believe it was. We were happy about getting rid of the sustainable growth rate, but the payback, if you will, is a law called MACRA, or also called the QPP, and those terms are pretty much interchangeable. As an aside, let me just say that as a practicing vascular surgeon, I understand as much as anyone how difficult all this is. It's very confusing, and frankly, the more you hear about it, the more you look at it, the more you will understand. The QPP gives us a positive update for 4.5 years, potentially positive update for 4.5 years from 2015 to 2019. And then the rates are flat for a few years, and then they climb some more, depending on how you participate in the QPP. Slide. This slide demonstrates in graphic form the potential for increased payments to providers over the next 10+ years. And of course, with Congress being the way it is, this could change. Slide. The quality payment program is really very big. It's a big deal. The program will reform payments for Part B Medicare to over 600,000 providers and is seen by the government as a major step in improving the delivery of health care for the United States. There are two tracks to choose from in the QPP, sort of, MIPS and advanced alternative payment models. SBS members, that's most of us, maybe all of us, will mostly be using the MIPS track because currently there is no vascular advanced APM. It has not been developed yet, but some members of the QPMC committee are working on just that and trying to develop a vascular APM, and it's very complicated. But I can tell you it's not going to be ready for use before the end of 2017. Slide. So, who must participate in the QPP? Well, pretty much every vascular surgeon will have to. The rules from Medicare are written here. You can read them. I don't know any vascular surgeon in the town that I practice in, which is Nashville, who would not be required to participate. Notice that it does not only apply to physicians. Slide. Some people do get a pass from participating. New physicians, for instance, those who have just graduated, are exempt for the first few months of their career. However, they will have to start participating in the next year. Low volume physicians, or at least physicians who don't bill Medicare very much, are exempt. And any physician participating in an advanced alternative payment model is exempt from the QPP. Slide. Excuse me one second. This is the website to check your status in the QPP. I'll give you a minute to write that down, but it's a pretty simple website address, www.qpp.cms.gov. Slide. When you get on the website, you'll be asked to enter your NPI number or National Provider ID. You'll be told if you're expected by CMS to participate in MIPS or the QPP. Remember, they're sort of interchangeable. If you are included in MIPS, you may be excluded with the second review of eligibility that will be determined at the end of 2017. Slides. Here's an example. This is Brad Johnson. He happens to be the chairman of the QPMC committee. I believe he's on an island somewhere, so we can pick on him tonight. The basic info or information is supplied by the website once he's plugged in. Slide. The next slide shows the details of Dr. Johnson's practice and indicates that he is included in MIPS. Slide. Once you know that you have to participate, and that's me and most other vascular surgeons, well, what do you do now? Slide. Now we'll get into the merit-based incentive payment system, or MIPS. Slide. MIPS looks at 4 different areas of your practice to come up with a MIPS composite score, or CPS. And a lot of these terms get confusing, but bear with us, and I'll try to speak slowly. It still confuses me, and I've been looking at this information for over a year. Quality, the composite performance score is composed of the following elements. Quality, which replaces the PQRS system. Improvement activities, which is a new category. Advancing care information, which replaces the dreaded meaningful use. And cost, which replaces the value-based modifier. The weight of each one of these categories changes over the next 3 years. Notice that cost is not counted in 2017, but gradually gains more weight, if you will. Slide. Once you obtain an eligible clinician identifier, you can use that to report your MIPS data as an individual or as a group. Starting in 2018, there will even be a possibility of reporting as virtual groups. We won't get into those details right now, and frankly, they're very confusing. Slide. Why should you care right now in July 2017 about something that affects what you're going to be paid in 2019? Well, that's exactly why you should care, because what's happening this year affects how you're going to be paid starting January 1st, 2019. Slides. CMS has a method whereby you can go at your own pace to comply with the MIPS requirements. It's really not very hard. And I'll point you out, I don't know how many of you get JVSBL, but I and several other members of the QPMC committee, including Jill, wrote an article that's in the back of the latest issue of JVSBL that talks about just this way of complying. Slides. Depending on how much data you submit for 2017, you can get anywhere from a small decrease in payment to a moderate positive adjustment. Slides. It's pretty easy to just submit something to avoid a penalty. If you only do what is indicated here, you will avoid losing money. Now, at this point, I'm going to pass the baton to Taylor Smith, who is a talented vascular surgeon in Ochsner, and he's going to deal with the really hard stuff. Taylor, are you there?
Sorry, helps if I unmute the phone. My apologies. So up to now, all we've done is explain that we all need to, essentially all need to participate in MIPS. How you do it going forward or for 2017 is sort of up to you and your own practice. If we go back just one slide, please, Jill. All you have to do is submit something, some data in this year, the test pace. Just log into the website. It will show you how to go through this, but you have to pick something, or else you'll lose 4% of your Medicare reimbursement down the road. And then you'll be way behind for the next years going forward. If you do a little bit more, you report for a 90-day period, you'll get a little bit of extra money. And if you report for the whole year of 2017, you'll get a little bit more extra money. So, but the point here is you got to do something. You got to do it this year. And I think you have to do it. You have to decide what you're going to do. I think by October. Is that correct, Jill?
Yes, October 2nd, you must start doing an activity.
Right. So we can go forward. One more. Go to slide 23. That's where we are. So again, so partial participation, you submit 90 days of data, or if this sort of is a dated slide because we're already in mid-2017. So if you haven't already started, you can start submitting partial data for the year, or I guess you can still submit the whole data for the year for the MIPS program. Next slide. Again, you can submit the whole year worth of data to Medicare. A moderate positive adjustment will come in 2019, and the adjustment is based on the data you submit, not the amount or the length of time. Next slide. So, as Patrick just mentioned, there's four categories for MIPS. There's quality, resource use, advancing care, and clinical improvement activities. And if you look on the right-hand side, it shows you what's available for each of these categories. A QCDR encompasses 3 of these, of which the VQI registry is a QCDR. So using some of these registries can help fulfill a lot of the categories for MIPS. Next slide. The MIPS performance category, the quality category, this replaces the PQRS and quality portion of the value modifier. It's 60% of the final score. Don't worry about that right now. Again, there's a link. I went through it this morning. You look at the specific quality measures that you pick, and you select the quality measures that you want to participate in, and then you submit your data through CMS through the website to do that. Next slide. Again, sorry, you submit one measure. You can submit it for the, once for the whole year just to avoid a negative payment. You can submit 90 days worth of data, or you can submit, 6 measures, multiple measures for a moderate positive outcome in payment. Next slide. Again, here's the website. You can go to this website. You select the quality measures. You search for the quality measures that you want to submit via Medicare claims. Next slide. And then you can choose to participate in these measures. So you can search by vascular surgery, and you might get measures that look like this. Percentage of patients who come to your clinic with controlled hypertension. You may not want to pick that one. But there's these quality measures that you'll pick and show that you're participating in. Next slide. Some more specific vascular surgery measures, quality measures are seen here. These are sort of basic things that we should be doing already, so they should be pretty easy to meet these metrics, such as perioperative antiplatelet therapy for patients undergoing a carotid endarterectomy. We all know they need to be on some kind of antiplatelet, but there's a little bit of details there. You have to document in the chart that it was given and that it's prescribed, within 48 hours of surgery, and that a prescription was given at hospital discharge. So you want to make sure that what quality measure you pick, you read the fine print so that you know that you're going to meet that quality measure. Next slide. So again, the steps to the website, you go to the quality payment program website, you click on the measures specifications, you pick the measures you want to participate in, and then you'll be able to submit the data for those measures. Next slide.
Yeah, so let's take a minute. I'm going to drop out of the slide set, and let's go to the QPP website, which is should be on my screen here. Let's just take a minute and show you all what Taylor and Patrick were just talking about. So this is the QPP website, and this is the quality measures page. And this is the filtering that we were just talking about on the last 2 slides that Taylor walked you through, right? So this is, you can search by keywords, and you can say all, or you can say filtered. So let's say filtered. We want high priority measures. We want to submit by claims data. That means on your CMS 1500 claim form for a patient. And we want to say high priority measure. Let's see. And we want to check off vascular surgery. So pretty simple. And then we're going to hit search. And see, there's care plan measure that we just had on the slide, controlling blood pressure, and documentation of current medications in the medical record. So we just click on that, and it gives us the information that we had on the slide. Like Patrick was saying, the specifics of the measure, gives you the measure number so that you can find it in the measure specification file. It tells you that it's a process measure, it's patient safety, and it tells you it can be submitted by claims, electronic health record, or registry. So that is how you easily can go on and search as we had on the slides. So, so really quite simple. Then, since I have you all here, this is where you would put in your MPI number right here on the very front screen. And then you click that and you hit enter. And that's how, and then it immediately tells you, so whoop, Brad L. Johnson must submit data to MIPS by March 2018. It'll tell you right from the get-go if you have to submit or if you're exempt. And then it gives you additional information. And as we had on the slide, the reason why Brad has to report is that he, as both an individual and his tax identification number practice, billed more than $30,000 and saw more than 100 Medicare patients. Now, the other interesting thing is it gives you some information here. So Tampa, interesting, is actually a health professional shortage area, HIPSA, As we start to, CMS gives more relief for small practices, rural practices. It's possible that they'll give some relief for health professional shortage areas too. That could come into play in the years to come in regards to scoring systems, et cetera. So something to note. But again, you saw how easy it was to check, literally put in your MPI number, hit check now, and it'll tell you your status, and you can do it right off the front page. So very, very easy to do. So we want to make sure that everybody can easily go to their QPP website and check it out. So let's go back to our slides. Very good. Okay. So Patrick, take it, Taylor, take it back away here. I'll get you on to the next one.
So again, this is sort of outlining a quality measure. It just gives a, again, just as Jill was just going through, sort of gives the details of it, which you can read on the website. And again, this one that we were highlighting, antiplatelet therapy for patients undergoing carotid endarterectomy. We all do this already, but you have to read the fine print. You have to document the patient's taking the antiplatelet agent within 48 hours prior to surgery, and you have to document that they have the prescription for the medication at home following surgery. And then the numerator and denominator are there for the descriptor. And then again, this is the same details, again, going into details about that quality measure. Next slide.
Yeah, actually, I'm gonna stop you for a minute because I just want to let people know how you would actually put this information on your CMS 1500 claim form, because you're probably looking at this information going, what the heck is that G code 9609 or 9610 or 9611? Well, that is an awfully good question. So on your CMS 1500 claim form, anytime you are billing or your billing staff is billing for you, a CPT code 35301, see right here in the denominator, CPT code 35301 is the code that represents the denominator of a patient undergoing a carotid endarterectomy, right? And since they're Medicare age, of course, they're over 18 years old, right? So when you're looking at your patients and you want to know who to submit this quality measure on, you would look at all your patient records for that month or that week that have CPT code 35301. So then on the CMS claim form, you have the line with the CPT code 35301. You bill it out as you normally would with your, information on the line. But then underneath that code, in its own line with the same date of service, same ICD-10 diagnosis codes that you have in the boxes for 35301, you would put the G code that best represents what you did with antiplatelet agents for that patient. Did you have the documentation there? And so you do G9609. Did you document the reason why you didn't give them platelets? G9610. Did you just not do anything? There's no information about documentation. You do G9611. You may say, well, Jill, I would never want to put a G9611 on there. Well, in some respects, you do want to do that because you want to make sure that you documented a quality measure so you don't get your 4% penalty, right? So even not doing it is okay, right? We'd rather, have good performance, G9609, but be that as it may, you should report the quality measure codes on every patient with a 35301. Now, some of you may say, what charge do I put on that line? Well, you'd put like a penny, right? Because it's not really a service, but CMS will process the claims if your processing software requires that you put some numerical amount. You would put like a penny, like 0.01, and that will be fine. So that is how you actually do a claims-based measure. You actually put the information on the CMS 1500 claim form, and you treat the numerator codes. They might be CPT codes or ICD-10 codes. In this instance, they're these G codes. You treat those as a normal code to bill on the line below the lines for whatever constitutes the denominator for that measure. So we just want to make sure people know mechanically how to bill on a claims-based form in case that's your option and you don't have the ability to participate in VQI right now. And hopefully in the future you will be able to. But this is a way to get everybody through and not have any SVS members take the 4% penalty. So, okay, now we're going to move on. So, Patrick, take it away.
So the next category after quality was improvement activities. These again assess participation activities that improve your clinical practice, shared decision making, patient safety, coordinating care, increasing access. Again, the process follows a similar pattern on the same website. You go to the improvement activities, and you can look under. Sorry, I'm fumbling for words here. You pick from a list of things that you want to do. You can go forward on the slide, and you can pick which ones you want to be a part of. A lot of these are done by an attestation that you're participating in a QCDR program, such as VQI or other qualified registries, and using an electronic health record system. And then CMS, sort of like keeping your income taxes, they want you to keep documentation of these things for 6 years going forward. I guess so if they ever decide to audit your practice, you can prove that you really were doing the things that you said you were doing. Next slide. Again, the reporting criteria, you attest yes to each of these activities that meets the 90-day requirements. Sort of what we were just saying, it's using a qualified registry, certified electronic health record, and you do these things via an attestation, and you pick the activities that are most meaningful to your practice. You don't have to select things that don't really pertain to you. Next slide. And then finally, the advancing care information. Sort of this replaces the old meaningful use that we all had to do, greater flexibility, and Jill's going to help me on this because I'm not quite, because of our institutional healthcare system, I'm not familiar with this completely. So there's two ways to do this. You use the, next slide please. There's if your electronic health record is certified to the 2015 criteria, you have to do these options, but if you're in the 2014 criteria, you do these other options, and your vendor for your electronic health record could tell you which one you have, and then that sort of determines which of these things you have to do. Next slide. However, if you look at what we have to pick from, a lot of it is, again, stuff with an electronic health record and with meaningful use we were already doing, such as using an electronic prescription function, being able to give the patients a summary of their care visit, allowing patients access to their health records or appointments and things like that, sort of things that were already built into our electronic health records that sort of fulfill this quality point. Next slide. So again, a little bit of a summary here. So for MIPS, as we go forward, we have to report something in 2017 in order to avoid a 4% loss. You'll get the loss in 2019 on your reimbursement if you don't report anything this year. So you report some quality measure, some improvement activity, or some of the advancing care initiative measures. There's no minimum reporting period, and there'll be no negative adjustment. And then, as your practice fits, you pick if you want to do a 90-day submission of data, or if you want to try to submit for the whole year. Probably, if you're not already doing it, submitting for the whole year may not be the best idea. But again, you have to do something. Next slide. Just as we're saying, we have to do something. So I sort of thumbed through the website a little bit today. It's fairly straightforward as long as you have somebody in your coding and billing or in your hospital that sort of can help you a little bit navigate some of it. Obviously, we're here to help. The committee members on the QPMC committee can help. If we can't help directly, certainly we can get you in touch with the people who can, and happy to answer questions as we can. And also, shameless plug for VQI. If you need to sign up for the VQI, there's the website. And again, the VQI and certain certified quality registries will fulfill a lot of these criteria as we go forward.
So let's take a minute and we'll go back to the QPP website and just show a couple more things that we just talked about. First, let's just quickly show so this is the improvement activity page. Hopefully you all saw what I did. I just clicked on the MIPS button up here, right on the home page, and it says quality measures, improvement activities, advancing care information, right? Well, of course, that matches all the 3 elements of the program because we don't have cost this year. So right here in the improvement activities, and I believe, or I hope, that CMS will put the attestation box right here on this page. Right now, we don't yet have the attestation option yet for the improvement activities where you're going to go directly to CMS, but they're saying that it will be on the QPP website. So I would assume it's going to be here. But also this is where you can search for the activities, and there's a little bit of information just like with the quality measures in regards to what's behind each activity, i.e. what you would have to do. Like it has a little paragraph here where it says what that activity is. It also gives you a weighting of the activity. If you were trying to get the entire high bonus number for 2017 and 19 and maybe even some extra bonus money, you might be doing all of the quality improvement activities, and then this weighting would matter because you'd be trying to get to 40 points total. Mediums were 10, highs were 20. That would tell you the number of activities you would have to perform, but for 90 days. But here's a little paragraph. So like this one, it talks about you have to have documentation of care transitions for the first 30 days following the discharge, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what you would be keeping in your records for 6 years. Oh, that'd be a long time. For 6 years that you had done this for patients to be able to attest to this improvement activity. So this is a good place to go and check it out. The other great thing on the website, it's not often we say that CMS has great things on their websites, but if you go to the About section under the Quality Program, they have this thing called a resource library. And this is just a gold mine, treasure trove, whatever you want to say about it. But it has lots of information, a lot of things about regulations. But one of the things it has is it has all of the webinars that CMS has ever done on the quality payment program to date, including slides, videos, etc. So check that out. It's a great resource. Then they have all of these different documents. They have all of the benchmarks for all of the measures. They have lists of all the qualified registries. You can see if you are participating in a registry, if they're qualified. They have all of, this is a very important file. It's a huge file, unfortunately, but a very important file. This is the measure specification zip file. And the reason why I'm pointing this file out is this is the file that you have to download to go in and see exactly how to report the measure that you decided to report on your claims data under the quality measure explore list, right? So this is the file where you actually get, I'm going to open it up here for you, where you actually get the, well, how do I report it? CPT codes, the G code, etc. So there's that file. It's a big file, so it takes a while to download, but we'll show it to you here in a minute. Then there's also information about key objectives in the quality program, other sorts of information that you might like to have. Well, that might take longer than we think. So then it has help. You can ask for questions, etc. So very important things here that might be of interest to you. Maybe two. I should have probably saved down one specification sheet. Sorry about that. But we'll have that in the minutes for the call here. But yes, so anyway, so this is really a great resource, and hopefully all of you have bookmarked this while we've been talking tonight, and you will be able to access it. And please, as both Patrick and Taylor said, if you have trouble when you're on here, just let us know, and we will be there to help you, etc. So Nadine and Patrick and Taylor, I think we have a good amount of time for questions. So hopefully everyone who's been on with us will take a minute to type their personal question into the question box, and we will be able to start answering some questions here for all of you who are on our webinar tonight. And believe me, if you have the question, I'm sure somebody else has the same one. So please don't be shy about typing in some questions so that we can have a good time here to get everybody's personal question answered on tonight's webinar. So while we're waiting for that, Patrick and Taylor, maybe you want to talk a little bit more about our article series in the JVS and the JVS VL and some of the topics that we have in those articles that we've already written and those that are coming up, so that folks can be on the lookout and for those in their journals.
Taylor, do you want me? I've got it pulled up.
Yeah, go
ahead. Have you done yours yet, Taylor?
I'm in writing one now for the November venous and lymphatic issues. But as Patrick was alluding to, there's it's an article series that started in the spring in the JVS. It's also included in each of the JVS venous and lymphatic journals. It's a one-page article. It's called Under the Macroscope, and it sort of goes through a little summary step-by-step through the year about the process of MACRA, the quality payment program, what is MIPS, what's an alternative payment model, and sort of goes through step-by-step. So that also is a good resource. They're in the, like I say, they're toward the back of the JVS, sort of where Sean Roddy's coding articles and things normally are. And it, like I say, it gives a little one-page overview of one little piece of it. But if you put all the articles together through the year, it's very helpful.
I just agree with that. I learned a lot writing the articles, and all of us are doing some of it. Karen Wu is kind of supervising all of us, and frankly is doing most of the work. I'd like to circle back and just put another plug in for the Vascular Quality Initiative. Just putting the data into the Vascular Quality Initiative satisfies so many requirements for the quality payment program and MIPS and MACRA. If you're not in it, quality is what everybody's looking for now, and I think in a few years, all vascular surgeons will just have to be in it. There won't be any other choice. So if you want to start early, like some of us did, I strongly recommend it.
Great. So I can't believe we have no questions about the quality payment program. I mean, I know that these were great slides and that Patrick and Taylor did a great job, but I can't believe that of all our attendees, we don't have at least one little question. So don't be shy. Please type those questions in if you have one.
Jill, I know when I'm in the QPMC meetings, sometimes I just get so overwhelmed that my brain is scrambled and I can't even think of a question to ask because I don't even know where to start. Jill's done a really great job writing these slides. And go back over them, and if you come up with questions, we're all easy to find.
Oh, great. We have a question. How does VQI satisfy the requirements for an individual when the data is for a hospital and multiple surgeons? So Patrick, I know you use it as a solo small practice. I believe VQI puts the data in for each individual surgeon for each quality measure, and each quality measure is then run. I know VQI only reports right now for individuals to the QPP programs, but do you have a little more specifics on that from your practice?
I don't yet, Jill. Sorry.
Okay, so I don't know. Our VQI friends were on a little while ago, but basically the data is you sign up for the QPP module of VQI, and the data that your hospital submits for each of the surgeons in your hospital is then reviewed for which quality measures, i.e., as we talked about, right, which CPT codes have been reported in regards to denominators, and then how does that activity relate to the activity in the measure. One of the things that VQI has been working on, the QPMC committee working with them, is to make sure that there are data elements in each VQI module that would allow for up to 6 of the QPP quality measures to be reported. So you could you could start with one VQI module and be able to actually report more than is needed to avoid the penalty. You'd actually be in a position to probably be considered for hopefully some bonus money under the QPP. So so that is how VQI is able to submit for individuals is the fact that they get data on all the procedures that are coming out of that hospital. The other thing is that as we talked about the improvement activities, literally on the improvement activity list, 11 of them relate to just being active in a registry, and particularly a registry like VQI that actually has at its heart quality improvement. And all, you know, your activities at the VQI regional meetings where you talk about quality and you look at the data and you talk about quality improvement, that those types of activities are actually part of the list of clinical improvement activities. So just, you know, documenting that you were at a VQI regional meeting, et cetera, and that you participated in a QCDR registry is going to be on the activity list. So that's something, that's a way that individuals are covered, even though the data is maybe your site is in as a hospital.
Jill, this is Kathy from M2S. And I
Good.
just wanted to add, that was a great description of how the VQI could assist folks in meeting the quality payment program requirements. But I just wanted to add that when we support the quality measure, we are providing data to CMS on the physician's behalf. So what we could do in the next few days following this webinar is make sure everyone on this webinar receives a copy of our white paper, which includes how to sign up, because there is a part where the physician needs to authorize us to send the data on their behalf.
Oh, great. So everybody be on the lookout for that white paper, because that will be a nice bit of information to have as you think about signing up for VQI. It was not something you can do for 2017 reporting. I unfortunately have to inform you that in the proposed 2018 rules, CMS is going to need to move some of the requirements up, i.e. increase. And so while you'll be able to do a little bit to avoid the penalty this year, either through claims-based reporting or attesting to an improvement activity right on CMS's website, as CMS goes back and starts to increase the requirements, it may become, you know, more laborious to do claims-based reporting, et cetera, than actually putting data in a registry. So something, of course, at your individual practice level you'll have to evaluate, but the requirements that Taylor and Patrick talked about tonight are going to increase, not decrease. Although slowly increase, but still increase. Okay, let's just see here. Oh, good. Here's another question. We are submitted quality measures via claims, then that's considered submitted, right? What about the other two requirements that are in place in our EHR? How do I submit data from our EHR? Thank you. Oh, excellent question. So this year, although this is something CMS is proposing to change for 2018, this year for each element, like quality measures, for instance, you can only submit the quality measure via one mechanism. So if you are submitting via claims, you could not also for this year submit quality measures via EHR. Now this is something CMS is actually proposing to change, possibly for 2018. So if you are reporting a measure via claims data and you've reported it on, at least 50% of the people who have the coding for the procedures in the denominator, then that will get you through for 2017, so you don't get the penalty. But over time, if you want to get the bonus money, you'd have to do, the more you do, the more probability you get bonus money. So you need to get up to 6 to get the best opportunity of bonus money. That's a lot of claims-based reporting. Or you'd have to do 6 via an EHR. Now, some EHR companies are selling modules to do that now. Most of those measures are primary care measures, just so you know. So that's one of the reasons why CMS is proposing next year that, particularly for quality, that you could report some measures via an EHR, some via claims, some via registry, etc. But once you have submitted the data, particularly on the claims data, i.e. because you needed to submit the claim to CMS for regular reimbursement, CMS has that data, and then they will review all that data during next year to make sure that you submitted it on 50% of the individuals who had the CPT codes on their claims for the denominator of that measure. So we didn't talk about measure completeness because for this year at Go Your Own Pace, they're not as religious about it, but the reality is you should try very hard just to get in the habit to submit, if you're doing claims-based or if you're putting data into a registry, at a minimum 50% of the patients who have the denominator codes on their claims or in their electronic health record or in their documentation. CMS wants to increase that over time as well. So it's good to maybe just set a standard right now that you're going to try to do it for everybody that qualifies for that specific measure, given what kind of care you provided to them. Okay. Okay, thanks for, I have a question regarding MIPS and the VQI. My understanding is that to avoid a penalty in 17, centers must enter 100% of Medicare case capture. However, the VQI does not include 100% case capture. For example, open thora, something abdominal repairs. Sorry about that, I'm not a clinician. I'm sure Patrick or Taylor would know exactly what that is, are not captured in a module. Also, trauma is also excluded in many modules, if not all. Well, the 100% case capture, I believe that is, and I'll have to look it up and provide it on the FAQs to be absolutely sure. So I've got to give this answer with a smidge of caveat. 100% case capture for the measure. I don't believe it's 100% case capture for everything in the module, but Kathy may know better than I in regards to what they're submitting for people who are signing up for the QPP piece.
Right, this is Kathy. So we have 2 sets of measures. One of them, we have non-QPP measures and QPP measures. So the non-QPP measures are measures that the VQI has defined, and the denominator or the initial patient population is starts with, for the procedures entered into the VQI. So that's the subset that we start with. And then there's a selection in there. So that's how the measure is defined. The QPP measures, which anyone could use participating in the VQI or other registries, that specifies the measure population as well. So it's not necessarily all Medicare patients. It's the ones that fit that measure or fit the inclusion criteria that that measure defines.
So just to this is Taylor, just to try to clarify that. So an example is for a quality measure is statin use on discharge after lower extremity bypass, correct? So you would just have to make sure that all of your lower extremity bypasses are included in the VQI, and your data for that quality metric would be pulled from that data to look at what percentage of your lower extremity bypass patients were discharged on a statin. Does that make sense? Did I get that right?
Right.
So it's not that 100% of all Medicare cases done at your hospital have to be included. It's just the cases that fit the category of the quality metric you're choosing to participate in.
That's right, the denominator, right, the group that's captured under the quality measure. That is correct. Okay. What should I be doing as an employed physician of a large hospital system? This is a great question. So first, what you need to do is go to the QPP website at www.qpp.cms.gov and check your participation status and see if you are required to participate under MIPS, or if, like Taylor, you're in a hospital system that is in one of CMS's alternative payment models, either a MIPS alternative payment model or an advanced alternative payment model. And if they list that you're exempt because you're in an alternative payment model, make sure that you have documentation from your hospital system that you are in that payment model and that they submitted your name under the list of physicians who are in their payment model. If you go on the QPP website and they say, like Brad Johnson, who is employed physician, that he has to submit under MIPS, the next thing you do is you ask your department administrator who at the hospital is in charge of quality reporting for physicians. Or if you're in a big faculty practice plan, you go to the administrator of the faculty practice plan and say, or the hospital practice plan, and say, excuse me, who is in charge of reporting for the quality payment program for all physicians in our practice plan? Now, you might accidentally get asked if you want to be on a committee for a quality payment program in your practice plan, and that's okay. You might want to say yes, because then you'll know exactly what's going on, and you'll be able to be right there. And also, then the SVS, we're happy to help you. But they will be able to tell you if you're probably reporting as a group, what measures you're reporting on, what the benchmarks are for those measures, what improvement activities you're reporting on, et cetera. And you should feel comfortable asking for a list of that and asking for how your organization has done under the old legacy programs, PQRS, value modifier, meaningful use, so that you have a sense of how well you might be able to do in the current and future years of the quality payment program. But you should feel confident asking if it's a hospital employed situation, your department administrator, they don't know, ask them to find out for you, or you go to the chief medical officer or the chief of staff for medicine or the chief of staff for surgery and ask them who's in charge of quality reporting for physicians in the hospital, and say you understand there's this thing called the quality payment program and you want to make sure that you're covered. You checked your participation status and it says you have to report under MIPS. So first things first, check your participation status on the QPP website like we talked about this evening, so that you can take that in hand when you start to ask questions internally in your organization. But don't assume, a lot of people assume that just because they're an employed physician, somebody's looking out for them and somebody's reporting. We unfortunately have heard some unfortunate situations where hospitals have not reported for physicians and physicians didn't know, or the hospitals or faculty practice plans picked a series of measures that the whole group didn't do well on, and everybody got a penalty under the legacy programs. So you do need to verify what is happening at your organization, and don't just assume that because you're employed, everything will be fine. That could lead to some heartbreak. So you want to verify, and then you'll be able to adapt and adjust and be part of a solution if nobody's doing anything yet. So another good question, if the practice doesn't have an EHR, but you use one at the hospital, okay. So again, you would need to think about where you see the majority of your patients, i.e. if it's a single hospital or if you go to multiple hospitals, because there is this thing called completeness requirement. And then you can think about looking at those 5 base elements for the base score on EHR. More importantly, though, it's data completeness on the measure, regardless of where that was done. So you have to think about, where do you see the majority of your Medicare patients? Where do you see the majority of your Medicare patients for each one of these types of measures? And then have them help you give your billing department or your billing people the information from their EHR system so that you can put the information down on the claim form, so that you can at least get some data in to avoid the 4% penalty. So unfortunately, if you're getting all your documentation through the hospital for your billing, you're going to need to go back to them and get documentation to report the quality measure on the claim as well. But that is doable. It just means you're going to have to ask some people for help and then probably follow up with them and bug them to get you the information. But that's also where you want to pick your measure. If you're doing it just to avoid the penalty, and go to that big specification file that I showed you and download the specification for the measure, so you can take that with you when you talk to them, or email it to them and say, hey, I need all the data on my patients for these elements so that I can do claims reporting on a measure and avoid the penalty. Okay, let's see here. We've got I think we've got most of these questions answered, which is excellent. And just check in here quickly. We're good. So great. Well, please, if you have more questions, or as Patrick and Taylor said, a question might pop in your mind in the middle of the night. This stuff is very dense, and sometimes it takes a while to think through all of it and know what you need to ask about. So don't be shy. If you have a question, please email the SVS or email VQI, and we'll get that question answered as soon as we can. We're happy to do that on the QPMC committee. And also, we're having another webinar tomorrow at 1 o'clock Eastern time. Same slides, but again, we'll be taking more questions, or you may have some additional colleagues or staff that after hearing this tonight, you're like, yep, I need to get them knowledgeable as well. And so we'll have this, and we'll also, Nadine, will we have this on tape recorded on the SVS website as like a little tape thing or a video thing?
Absolutely. We'll have both the audio and slides, and that'll be available next week. Right.
So you can get a tune-up by going to the SVS website and just making sure that anything you heard, if you need to hear it again, it'll be right there for you. And then if you have a question again, just please, or a new question, ask away. They're right on the SVS website. Send us a note.
All right, it looks like that's all of our questions, so we will close the session right now, and thank you all for your attention and participation.